Do you know that China has invested tens of billions of dollars and built 6 very important and large ports? These ports are distributed in many different countries, but they will make the United States even more worried. Because after the completion of these 6 large ports, it can help China get rid of the economic blockade imposed by the United States on China. And it can even affect the original maritime trade pattern. Do you know this? Do you know the names of the nations that are home to each of these 6 ports? Discovering new and fascinating initiatives is something we should do together. The first of them is called Kayak Pai. The passage of ships via the Strait of Malacca is crucial for China's marine traffic. More than 80% of all of the goods and energy that are brought into the country must go via the Strait of Malacca. Nonetheless, China will get concerned if an inordinate amount of focus is placed on the Strait of Malacca. China will be plunged into a severe economic crisis as soon as the United States begins to block traffic through the Strait of Malacca. China has developed strong diplomatic relations with Myanmar and has assisted Myanmar in the construction of a significant amount of infrastructure in order to facilitate the opening of energy routes connecting China and the Indian Ocean. This is being done in order to maximize China's access to the Indian Ocean. China made the decision in 2015 to spend $7.8 billion in the construction of a port in Myanmar. This port is known as the Kayak Pai Port. Once the Kayak Pai Port in Myanmar was formally open for business, the government of Myanmar leased the port to China for a period of 99 years. At the same time, Chinese firms own 70% of the port's shares, while Mandi Enterprises have 30% of the total. China has also invested in the construction of oil and gas pipelines from the Kayak Pai Port to Unnen, China. It is anticipated that both the Kayak Pai Port and the oil pipeline would be fully operational by the year 2020. 3. With Myanmar's ports and oil pipelines under protection, China's imported oil will be able to be moved from the Kayak Pai Port onto trains or delivered back to China through pipes, substantially shortening the journey. This will be made possible thanks to Myanmar. In point of fact, these infrastructures not only save a great deal of complications for China's import commerce, but they also lessen the likelihood that China's energy supply chain would be disrupted. Kaiyou Airport is obviously a major outlet for China's international ocean, and it is located in Kieu. It is certain that during the next 10 years, Myanmar's Kayak Port will provide adequate security for both China's and Myanmar's economy. The second option is a port on water. Southwest Pakistan is home to Pakistan's only navigable water port. At first, it was nothing more than a sleepy fishing community perched on the edge of the Arabian Sea. China has made the decision to assist Pakistan in the construction of the GU in order to improve the promotion of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and to open up new trade channels in coastal ports. In point of fact, the cost of building the port reached $248 million United States dollars, of which China spent $198 million United States dollars in Pakistan and $50 million United States dollars in 2005. As the GU port is closer to energy, nations such as the Middle East, the trip for China to buy oil has gotten shorter. Even if China's competitors wish to restrict its energy commerce, the country may still choose routes that are less risky for commercial activity. The GU port guarantees the safety of China's commercial activities in the Indian Ocean. The Port of Suez is in third place. The Suez Canal has played an important role as a route linking Asia and Europe ever since ancient times. When it first opened its doors in 1967, the Suez Canal has seen an average of over 20,000 ships traverse its waters each and every year. China and Egypt actively maintain friendly relations in order to realize the strategy of China's 21st century maritime Silk Road proposed by China. This will allow for the strategy to be realized since Egypt does not have the resources necessary to extend the Port of Suez. China's maritime commerce vessels are dependent on the port's ability to provide resupply as well as loading and unloading services. China made a proposal in 2008 to enlarge and lease the Port of Suez in Egypt. Both China and Egypt saw significant economic growth as a direct result of the development of the port when it was completed. In 2012, the annual output value of the Overseas Trade Cooperation Zone between China and Egypt exceeded $55 million. In 2014, China boosted the amount of money it invested in the Suez port, and the port area itself was extended at the same time. The Hambantota port comes in at number 4. Notwithstanding the embargo imposed by Western nations, Sri Lanka's relationship with China has always been one of mutual respect and friendship. Despite the tremendous growth of China's economy, China never lost sight of the importance of its partnership with Sri Lanka. In 2007, China made its formal investment in the development of the Hambantota port, and at the same time, the Sri Lankan government committed to leasing the port to China for a period of 99 years. The Hambantota port became Sri Lanka's most significant construction endeavor at that time. Even though there were only about 300 ships per day when the Hambantota port was first opened for business, Chinese companies still spent $1.12 billion to buy 70 of the port and pay 99 years of rent for the port. This was despite the fact that the port had been under construction for many years prior to its opening. After years of operation, the port of Hambantota has developed into an essential hub for China's marine transportation. Every hour, there are an average of 10 ships that arrive at the port of Hambantota. More than 30% of transportation for bulk freight is for restocking. The loading and unloading of 50% of all containers will take place here, and 60% of all oil will be transported through these ports. And now we are back in China, where the sixth stop is the Piraeus port. China made an investment of 4.3 billion euros to purchase a 67 part in the project in order to facilitate the opening of the market to Europe. Amazingly, the amount of cargo that passes through the port of Piraeus has increased over the past few years. The Piraeus port will be ranked 9th among the international shipping hubs of the globe in the year 2022. In the not-too-distant future, the port of Piraeus will surpass all other ports in the Mediterranean to become the biggest one. The sixth is the port of Djibouti. The safety of any marine commerce is absolutely inseparable from the protection of the Army. In 2013, China invested $185 million in order to purchase a 23.5% share in the Djibouti port. This was done in order for China to combat the Somali pirates. The primary function of the port is to provide as a location for the Chinese escort to get training and to store supplies, a Chinese source supply. The year 2014 saw the beginning of China's development of the JV multi-purpose ports of Du and Raji. Construction on the multi-purpose port of Dili took just less than 3 years to complete, and it opened for business earlier this year. In May of 2017, the Djibouti port was responsible for providing the Chinese convoy with over half of its supplies. Currently, China is actively working to increase marine commerce and is expanding its infrastructure construction efforts in neighboring nations. Because the route of China's import and export trade will not be limited to the Straits of Mocha and overseas ports will become important nodes connecting new routes with these 6 ports. The safety of China's maritime trade is guaranteed, the plans that the West and other countries have to contain. China's development are likely to fail. This is because from the current point of view, the route of China's import and export trade will not be limited to the Straits of Mocha.